10 years ago, a bold vision was born, a dream to unite voices, strengthen partnerships, and place early childhood development at the heart of national dialogue in Kenya. My name is Sally Mora. As the programs coordinator of ECD Network for Kenya and a global leader of the World Forum Foundation, I am deeply honored to help tell this story, a story of collective effort, quiet heroism, and unwavering belief in the power of the early years. This is our story, this is our legacy. Welcome.
My name is Frances Aboud, and I'm a professor of psychology at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. I started becoming interested in early child development in the global context when I went to Ethiopia as part of the McGill Ethiopia Community Health Project. And I lived with my family for several years in Ethiopia, first in rural Ethiopia and then in Addis Ababa.
So, Dr. Francis, how has early child development evolved over the years, and what are your views on its evolution?
People, I think people were engaged in preschool aspects of early child development and setting up programs because it seemed to be easier to, work within the school system and just sort of go down from primary to pre-primary. So a lot of my work was with that. They didn't know quite so much what to do with parenting. But it was easy to get a start on early childhood if you worked within the preschool program because the infrastructure was already there. The biggest problem was that they just sort of moved some of the primary school activities down to the younger children, but they didn't change them to suit how children at this age actually learn by manipulating things themselves. So that was the big challenge there. And then the next challenge really was working with parents, which is a lot more challenging because there isn't an infrastructure unless you're hooked with the health system. But you have to set up special parenting groups, and there wasn't a parenting curriculum. So developing a proper parenting curriculum, and for quite a while there were many different curricula. It was a good period of creativity and flexibility and trying out different curricula. At this point, there have been meta analyses, so people know what works and what doesn't work so much. So there really isn't any point in starting from scratch all over and developing a parenting program. We know you have to have some behavior change techniques in there that help parents learn. So that's sort of the biggest evolution I've seen, moving from preschool to parenting, proliferation of parenting curricula, and then starting to focus on what we know works now.
Having worked in your sector for so long, what are some of the shareable concepts of child development that have been seen given the various contexts that are there?
Well, okay, so I mean, child development follows the same sort of pattern of moving to maturity uh, across countries. So this is not a big difference. All children kind of learn language in the same way. They learn a different language, but and maybe the rate of development differs, but they're the same steps. And this is probably tied to brain development to a large extent. So the brains of children around the world are the same. The context is a bit different, but there are certain aspects of context that are similar. Stimulation, for example, responsive stimulation exists in all cultures in a slightly different way, but the essence of responsive stimulation occurs around the world. So there are some contextual differences, but some of these basic things that you need for development, such as hearing language from birth, we know that that occurs around the world. It's not that in certain cultures children need to hear language and in other cultures they don't need to for a couple of years. Everybody needs to hear language from birth. So it's important to distinguish between aspects of context or culture that really are basically the same across countries and aspects that are not the same, and maybe those things are a little bit superficial. Of course, it's important that you learn the language and the ways of greeting of your culture, but the way children learn these things is pretty much the same. And then the concept of responsive is obviously not understood by most people. Most people are fairly directive with children. They sort of think that the brain is empty and you have to put stuff into it, when in fact you really have to provide stimulation that is in response to what the child is interested in. So responsiveness is still a concept that is not well understood. So we are developing some videos that will help workers and parents understand what responsive stimulation means.
Let's talk about the nurturing care framework. What words can we borrow or put together that mean the same? Thinking about the whole entire framework, just talk to us a bit about that in this time.
Well, okay, I think we all understand that these five components, health, nutrition, safety, security, early learning, and responsive care, are all sort of connected and important. You don't want to just give one with the others, they're all important. I think we have a good way of measuring it through observation. You can look to see if a parent is responding to a child's interest or abilities. It's not a matter of responding to a child's distress cry. All parents around the world respond to child distress. So there isn't anything they need to learn new about that. What they need, everybody needs to learn though, is responding to a child's interest, bids for attention, their abilities, providing something at their ability.
And in your view, what impact has framing of this concept that you're talking about had in the early child development context?
Okay, the framing is sort of difficult, and the WHO is sort of trying to do this. I think it's not been a good idea for them to actually sponsor or support certain programs that maybe don't have those things in them. I think that as a community, all of us who work to try and improve ways of building nurture care concepts into our programs, how to communicate this to parents. So the framing of those constructs for Ministry of Health is important. I think we have convinced them through advocacy that these five components are essential. They've all bought into that and said, yes, we need to know, we need to implement that in our country. So it's good to frame it that way. It then leads government ministers to say, well, how do we implement those things in our country? And that's where we need to draw their attention to a number of different curricula, different levels of intensity. Some people just need a light touch program, other people need a very intense program. And instead of just picking one off the shelf that's supported by WHO or UNICEF, they need to pick one that suits their population, that communicates these things in the parent's context, but also that has the right level of intensity. Because I have seen too many countries deliver programs with a very light touch. They spend a lot of money delivering that to parents and nothing has changed. And you could ask parents, did you participate in this program? Yes. Did you learn anything new? They'll say no. Many of them will say no. Even if they say yes, do you practice any of these? They'll say no.
What unique lesson has your vast experience shown that can be a lesson for everybody?
Well, one important lesson is that children around the world are pretty similar. Parents also have similar goals. They want their children to grow up to make a contribution to their society. They have high aspirations for their children. They want them to be healthy and they want to be well fed. A lot of parents don't understand about the brain. So this has been the big issue is parents often think that simply by providing giving their child health and nutrition, that everything else will come. So they don't know that the brain needs stimulation. They don't know that a child needs to have someone talking to them right from birth. And that's one of the critical things I've learned that I keep saying over and over again. It's not this concept.
Well, any parting shot for us? Any last words?
Can share with this? Yeah, I guess I would like to say that I know people talk about context matters, and it certainly does, but so do similarities. And that it's important not to lose sight of that. That parents show love in a similar sort of way. Some of them are more touchy, some of them do it through smiling, some of them do it through words, but it's communicated in one way or another. It's the essence of what gets communicated. The essence of